moving on.
I'm moving on
to PlayStation.
Yeah,
you guys might have a thing or two to say about this. So
sure.
We're kind of reviewing the year of PlayStation
exclusives.
Gotcha. Yes. Let's start with the Vita. All right?
Okay.
The only 2 games I have on the list that I could find were Danganronpa, Another Episode, Ultra Despair Girls, and Persona 4 Dancing All Night.
Yes.
Did I miss anything?
I mean, I have some games on my list, but nothing major here. No, nothing major. Yeah, there weren't. I mean, there were many more exclusives.
There's many games, yeah.
Or games that were on PS3 as well.
Well, the big thing is PC games that finally made their way over or whatever. That's where it gets sticky. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but you're talking about like straight up PlayStation.
Yeah, or just
exclusives.
whatever it meant to you guys this year. Like, what did you play on
what
your
it
Vita?
meant to me. Oh, okay, that's a different question.
Danganronpa, I played it for 10 hours or so. It's still in my Vita. I mess with it every so often because I'm trying to like get everything in the game because I would like to platinum it. It's weird. It's a weird game. I'm not quite sure what they were thinking with this game. I mean, we know what Kodaka and those guys were thinking. They wanted a stepping stone to Danganronpa 3, and I don't think they were ready for it yet. So they made a weird, quirky third-person shooter. And it's bizarre. It's a bizarre game. It's for Danganronpa fans very strictly. If you've not played Danganronpa 1 and 2, you will not enjoy this game. You'll not even understand it, especially the first one. But it's weird. It's definitely a fucking weird, grisly. The thing about the game that really stood out to me is it's fucking really violent. And that's saying something because Danganronpa is a violent game. It's a very violent game. It's about kids killing kids, and it's very Lord of the Flies or Battle Royale kind of Hunger Games kind of thing. I mean, it's like that's what it's about. So this game is like over the top in kind of the gore, but the gore is like the blood's pink and stuff. It's not like scary in any way. So I enjoyed it. But I have not seen enough to really like render a final verdict on it. I think people are a little lukewarm on it. It's just because it's not Danganronpa, and we'll get more of that, this coming year.
The bear's back. Montezuma's
revenge. You talking about like I'm looking through my trophies and like you want to talk about this was the year Vita I think fully did move into being the indie station. You know what I mean? That was a joke thrown around forever about it. But yeah, Persona was like the big tentpole event. Still waiting on volume. But it's an indie, you know what I mean? But like looking through like the things I played that stand out because there was tons of stuff I played. We traveled so much this year, right? But I'm looking at it like Titan Souls. That stood out for me. That was a lot of fun. That was a great run and, exciting to play there. Super Meat Boy finally came out. I was playing Rallycopters for longer than I should have. But it's like, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, it's just a fun thing. 3/4 Home I played it on Vita, and when I actually sat down and did it with headphones, had a great time. Farming Simulator came out. Super Time Force Ultra. The one I want to give a shout out to that I think we talked about was Actual Sunlight. Have I ever talked about that on the show? Actual Sunlight is one of those where I'm not sure 100% it's story, and I should probably look it up because I talk about it every so often when we talk about Vita. But before this trip to Chicago, I went on the store on my Vita and I was looking for something.
Oh, you did talk about
I
this,
mist or whatever, and it's this game where you play as a suicidal person or whatever, and like from their perspective, and it's like basically all text over like a very 16-bit looking out or whatever layout of the game or whatever, and that was something that touched me. You know what I mean? Because it was just something interesting. It's that. What can you do with games and what kind of stories can you tell and how can you speak to your audience in a very direct way? And that's what happened. And so like that was awesome. And like, I think Vita, it's this JRPG machine that has all these different things. I'm playing
Chrono Trigger
on it right now. There's all these different things of like, this is the year where I used my Vita very, very differently. You know what I mean? Leading up to this, I feel like I would download a PS1 Classic to have it or whatever, do this or blah, 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 get the indies there. But I was like, Freedom Wars, this is what I want to play, or I was this next big Vita game that was supposed to be like the savior of Vita, whereas this year it was for me, it was Persona Dancing All Night, which I got and was cool to have, but I maybe I'll platinum it, but it's like kind of repetitive for me right now, and I don't know if I'll get back to it. Whereas like there's all these other little things I keep popping into and doing, and I'm more stoked. I mean, like what I'm super super stoked about, and I'm keep putting it off, is finally playing Bastion on Vita because that's where I'm gonna platinum Bastion because I love Bastion. Loved it when I reviewed it back on 360. When it was an Xbox Live game. Now that it's finally here, it's been on PS4 forever, and I jumped on and played it that first night. And I was like, this is it, and it's Bastion. It's great. I want it on Vita because with headphones on a plane and like there's so much content to that game and jumping around and making the missions tougher on yourself to get this to do that. Like I'm super super excited to get lost in that. But similar to like how Colin's always talking about Persona 4 Gold and like letting that sit there and always be there for him on his Vita, right? That's what I'm going to do with Bastion. Like I don't want to rush it. I could go tonight while Christine watches YouTube videos. I could sit next to her and play Bastion, but I'm not going to. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a few games written down here. I want to definitely give a shout out to 3/4 Home. I think that's actually one of the best games I played this year, and that game was extraordinarily emotional and really resonated with me on a storytelling level. It's really about a girl that loses touch with her family, and it's really fucking sad. It was just a really sad game. I just sat in my bed one night and played it. Very similar to Journey in that respect, where I'm not going to play it again. And I thought it was really awesome. It's definitely one of my favorite games of the year, and it's on Vita, and it's perfect on Vita. I played a game called Heroes of Loot on Vita a lot. It's actually a mobile game. And I played it on Vita, and it's just a very simple dungeon crawler, and I actually had a lot of fun with it. It's just like you die and you start in the beginning, you die, you start in the beginning. It just had a weird kind of loop. And you already brought up Titan Souls, which I thought was really fun. The final game that on Vita that I played a lot this year that a lot of people didn't touch is Zeo Drifter from Renegade Kid, which is a Metroidvania game, but it's like a really small Metroidvania game. You can beat it in like 2 hours. It's just like you're on different planets and you like jump from planet to planet, find things you need, and go back to the planets. And very simple aesthetic and very simple gameplay, but really, really fun game. One of the more enjoyable games I actually played this year, I think. So I like that a lot. Zeo Drifters on PS4, I think, as well. You can play it on 3DS. I think it's on Wii U. It's on PC. So you can play it in a lot of different places. But I played on Vita, and I thought it was a lot of fun. So yeah. Oh, and Shovel Knight, of course, came to Vita this year.
Yeah, that was my video game of the year.
Yeah,
faux show. My God, I'm happy I waited to play Shovel Knight because when it first came out on just the Wii U, it just for some reason it felt wrong to me. I didn't want that. I wanted to play that game portably. And you can't really do that with the Wii U. You kind of can.
You played it on 3DS when it came out too.
No, I know, but the 3DS, I don't like the buttons are too small. Had the same problem with the Vita. Like, it was the whole thing. But then I was like, I want the screen. I have the OLED. Like I'm very particular when it comes to this shit. So I was very happy I played it on Vita, and it made my Vita worth buying. Like, I loved the shit out of that game. So Colin was right.
Naturally.
PS4, moving the fuck on to the big leagues. Bloodborne
was hot. I mean, I played Bloodborne for 20 plus hours. I didn't beat it. I didn't get very far in it. I really enjoyed it. I wish that we didn't have to travel around when it came out because I was really in it. I mean, I used to sit on the couch like every night for like 4 hours after everyone went to bed and just played it over and over again. I was like, I really finally get the hook. It's a little quicker. It's a little more arcadey, just a little bit than Dark Souls or Demon Souls. And that's what I needed because I think Dark Souls and Demon Souls are just so stiff and boring. Like I'm not into those games at all. And I tried. I mean, I took a whole week off to play Dark Souls last year just to see if I can get back into it. I'm like, I just don't like it. You know, Bloodborne struck me the same way for about 5 hours, but I just stuck with it because it has the essence of something I really want to understand. I want to understand what it is about these games. Everyone's like, you love Dark Souls, you love Demon Souls, and I'm, you know, because I like hard games and I like old games, and this game's definitely got the soul of an old game. Pardon the pun, but I just didn't get it. I just was like, why? Like, it's hard because it doesn't control well. It's hard because it's like not fair sometimes. Like, that's not fun to me. Like, the essence of the games that I like that were hard, but they were fair. Mega Man's fair, Castlevania's fair, Ninja Gaiden's fair. These are fair games. If you're bad at them, it's your fault. And
I think learn to get better.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes, a lot of times in Dark Souls, for instance, it is your fault. In Bloodborne, it is your fault. Sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it's totally unreasonable for you to expect that you should have known that this dragon was going to fly over this bridge and fucking kill you out of nowhere, like just unfucking
to be
announced.
Fair, Mega Man is like that too. It's a trial and error. Then you know the dragon comes.
Yeah, but they're different. I think in that respect, the design's a little different, whatever. But I understand why people love those games. I just wanted to understand more of it. And Bloodborne was the game where I was really like, yeah, I get it. It's one of those games in my mind where I'd love to get back to, but who knows if I ever will. The DLC came out, and it's supposed to be excellent. I'm proud that Sony understood. This was a mea culpa to the fan base because I know that they understood that they fucked up with Demon Souls and that they could have locked this entire series down. Dark Souls would have never happened if they knew what they had, and they just didn't know. And this was them saying, like, we have to fix this for our fans, because it was PlayStation fans that made Dark Souls a thing with Demon Souls. Without them, Dark Souls would have never been a thing. So I think that was a business blunder on their part. I think Bloodborne was making that better, and I don't think we've seen the last of Bloodborne because I think it was like, it sold some PS4s, people liked it, it did well, it did respectably, and I think that it gives a lot of credibility to the console.
There was also Order 1886.
Well.
Yep.
I was surprised when it went on sale this past Thanksgiving break when it was $10 or whatever. The number of people who bought it were like, "This wasn't. What is that? Really
for $10? About? I think it's totally worth it."
Yeah, exactly. And that was the thing. I'm like, well, you're not understanding the proposition here and the differences, and also its expectations. You know what I mean? When people were building it up to be this big AAA game, that it was going to be this, PlayStation 4 exclusive. This is like this is what it can do, kind of thing. It had different expectations, whereas then everybody shat on it for an entire year, and then it came out for $10, and everybody's like, "This isn't bad."
Rocket League.
Rocket League's hot, man. Yeah. Rocket League's arguably the best game of the year, pound for pound. we saw that coming a mile away. I mean, it was so obvious that game was going to be big when people finally started getting it in their hands. I think it was a stroke of genius for them to release it for free, and I think that I think it's like 8 million players or something like that. It's like an insane success for a company that small. I mean, they're rolling in it now. So it's just a great game, just a really good game.
Yeah, I think out of all the games this year, it's the one that I wish that I spent more time with.
Sure.
Because I did the Let's Play and that was it. Like I never really played it outside of that, but I feel like I'd like that a lot.
You still could, and that's the thing I was talking to with people. Just like, it was similar for us. It's the travel schedule. We talked about Rocket League forever. When it finally got there, we had like 3 days, and then we went to some event.
Yeah.
And I came back, and I was just getting fucking bludgeoned to death in matches. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, this is my time. But then I was talking to kids who were talking about playing it local or, playing with their friends. And it's like, okay, like there is still life to it, even if you're terrible like me. Or if you want to go be amazing like Freddie Wong and try to go pro and all this different stuff.
Is he really good?
Oh, dude, he's addicted to Rocket League. He loves Rocket League. And that's the thing is like, that was what was crazy for us, you know what I mean? Like Colin coming back that first time after seeing it at PSX last year, was that right? And telling me like, Dunham's game is actually really good. And I'm like, oh, right. Well, what is it again? He's like, oh, your car is playing soccer. I'm like, that sounds not good at all. And then you play it, and you're like, oh shit, this is good. And then to watch it slowly build and build and build to where it is this phenomenon. Everyone is talking about it. You're like, yeah, congratulations to you, Psyonix.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I'm proud of them. I'm really proud of them.
Until Dawn.
Another unexpected jam.
Awesome.
Big fan.
Awesome game.
Good Lord, such a
Awesome
big fan.
game.
You were like, Tim, you need to play this game, and you were fucking right, Colin.
No, I knew you'd love it.
So good. I enjoyed it, and you say so much about like it's what Telltale games should be, and like
and Quantic too.
I get that. It's like you play it, and it's just like it's a story. You're not really playing a game. Like you could watch a YouTube video of that game, and it's the same exact experience.
But it isn't. But I mean, you're not getting like the don't move. You know what I mean? You make the choice real quick, and like there's so much to it. I understand what you're saying.
Yes, I'm just saying I don't think there's enough of that. Like that's the equivalent of like a 3D movie where it's just like there's a little extra shit. Yeah, you missed that, but like
sure.
Really,
you're gonna get the story out of it, but not the experience.
Yeah, and it's like to me, it's the equivalent of if the videos were annotated and you can like click through.
Yeah, choose your own adventure.
Thing. Yeah. But that's not a knock on it. It's fun. It was great, and like it, it doesn't need to be a game. Like there doesn't need to be like you lose or whatever. Like I like that it was exactly.
Well, that was what's so
was.
Fun to sit down with you. Like I sat down with Christine and streamed it, and we beat it in one go. And she'd already played it, but she wanted to watch me play it again and see the different shows. Like that's cool. Like I hate watching games I've beaten again usually, or even playing games I've beaten. But then when you and Nick were playing it on Extra Life, like it was awesome to sit and like I knew you guys were making choices that were different than mine. I'm like, oh fuck, I can't wait to see what happens. You know what I mean? Like there is that thing to it of like, oh, what are they gonna do when this part happens? Are they gonna know to move fast here and like don't take the safe route? And
I do like that the changes affect it pretty substantially.
Sure.
Like it's not one of those like stupid like, oh well, this thing happens a little differently.
Right,
it's
right.
like looking at all the like once you beat it, you want to know, oh, what are the different things that could happen?
Yeah.
And then when you go online and look, it's like, oh shit, like things could be real different.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I really hope that we get like a proper sequel.
You will
with like a different cast of characters.
Yeah, new characters, new setting. New
I think
everything.
you will. I think Sony's smart enough to know what they have with Until Dawn. I don't think that they knew maybe before they released it. I was really shocked that it didn't have a bigger push, and I think that they were trepidatious about it. I don't think that they quite understood what they had. That game was in development and gestating for a long time, and I think that they had spent a lot of money on it. And I think they were scared, and I think I think there might have been a feeling that they were just trying to get it out. I don't think that they understood that it was one of the best games of the year, and maybe the strongest. In its own way, the strongest PS4 exclusive of the year. So I don't think you've seen the last of Supermassive working on that series.
I mean, I think that, when we first saw it at PSX, like that was, I don't know if that was the first time it was ever shown, but that demo of it, like you could tell watching it, and I wasn't in the room, but like I can only imagine that was powerful. It's like, oh shit, like there is something
freaking
here.
out, saying go right or left.
Because I do remember when you first see it and you see Hayden Patinata, whatever the hell, I don't know how to say it.
Panettiere, I think.
Panettiere.
Hayden Pancetta.
Exactly. The pancetta. You see this, you get this instant feeling of, ugh. Like, oh, this is the game this is going to be. Like, it's like a licensee thing of just like, let's put actors in this. And, there's no way this is actually going to be good. And then you see that demo and it's like, all right, was that just cool? Because there's a crowd of people saying, like, do this, whatever. And it ended in the perfect way. And it got people hype. And it's like, all right, I didn't believe it was actually going to be good. So it wasn't until you were like, it's good. And I was like, oh, shit. Like, okay.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, it was definitely an experience. I remember we got it early. I sat down and played it. I beat it in like a day and a half. I was like, this is awesome. Exactly what I need. It's unique. And like I said, it out Telltale's Telltale, but it really out Quantic Dream's Quantic Dream, which is going to resonate a lot more for PlayStation fans, because I think that Quantic, if they can, swallow their pride a little bit, can probably learn a thing or two about how to make a game by watching and playing until dawn, especially after Beyond Two Souls, which was, not very good.
Uncharted collection.
Awesome.
Oh my God. My first
I was gonna say for you,
dive
you're
into
the
2 and
interesting
3
one.
and
Yeah.
holy shit. I mean, I couldn't give that game of the year because it's, cheating in
Sure.
collection, but it would be. Like, my God. Such great games.
Yeah.
So good. And I cannot wait for 4. I think them putting this out, we all knew it would happen, but I'm happy it did because there's so many people playing it for the first time. They're just like, holy shit. My
Stoking the
friend
fire.
Curran never played an Uncharted game because he didn't have a PS3. And now he has a PS4. He's playing through them and he's just like, how did I not fucking play these?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know. They're so good. And I'm happy that I waited for the collection because it's beautiful, man. And it's like you play it and they don't look dated. Like they look good. It's like, yeah, they're not as beautiful
Sure.
as some of the new games, but it's like you play them and you're like, this is great. It doesn't take you out of the experience.
Right.
And I'm happy that they did that.
Me too.
Yeah, I platinumed 1 and 2 again. I platinumed on PS3 as well. Really good reminder of just how stellar Uncharted is. Uncharted is so far ahead of so many of its contemporaries. It's not even funny, and they still are, and they still hold up. Those characters are still fantastic, and the stories are a little weird, but they're fun. It's I don't know. It's a nice reminder of what we're gonna get with Uncharted 4.
Yep.
I think
Definitely. Vanishing of Ethan Carter.
I wouldn't really count that as a PS4 game. I mean, that came to PC last year, I think. But
Yeah.
but PS4 gamers got it this year. I played it for a couple hours. It's obtuse, but I don't have much more to say about it than that. It was a game I was really excited about.
Mm-hmm. We got Journey Remaster this year. I didn't play
I didn't mess with that. I'll never play Journey again.
Axiom Verge.
Got a little more than halfway through it. Nick really loved it. I stopped playing because I thought it was going to be imminent on Vita, and we're still fucking waiting. It's like a little straight up a little ridiculous now that the game's not available on Vita yet. It's like a little fucking obnoxious in its own way. But things happen and complications happen or whatever. But I do get a little annoyed, truth be told, when a game is promised for PS4 and Vita and you just sit for months and months and months and months just waiting. It's a little disappointing.
On my list, like when I've been talking about this with people, I'm like, I fully believe that Volume could be one of the best games of the year. I'm just waiting for it on Vita. I tried playing a remote play on Vita and that didn't work. So I was like, no, I'll wait. It's just, I don't mean to be a snob about it, but that's where I want to play that game and where I want to have that experience because I need stuff on the Vita when I'm on the go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just wish that people wouldn't. Things happen. Tom's a friend of ours, so I'm not trying to shit on anyone. I'm not trying to shit on anyone in particular. It's just like, don't promise a game for a platform and then not release it. Like that. I guess that's kind of like, we were excited about that game for Vita. I mean, that's just real talk.
And that's the other thing too, is if it had been like a surprise later on that it's coming to Vita, maybe I would have played it on PlayStation 4 and been able to, adequately talk about it. But like when it sounded like all these games were coming out at the same time, I'm like, oh great, no big deal. Same thing with Bastion. But I had played Bastion 5 years ago, so it didn't really matter. I can sit here and tell you Bastion's awesome.
That said, I just want to say Axiom Verge for what I played is excellent.
Yeah, Nick
that's
loves
what makes it so disappointing that it's not on Vita because that's really where it belongs. I think it's where it belongs.
Final Fantasy VII Remaster just came out.
Oh,
yeah, I've been playing it for a few years. A few hours.
I haven't really built for a few years.
And a couple episodes ago, we were talking about what's the definitive way to play Final Fantasy, and I think this is.
It might be this way.
Answer.
Yeah, it might be
just
this
the fact that you can speed up the.
Yeah,
the
that
game
shit's a little
and,
obnoxious, but you don't have to. You don't have to do it. So
Yeah,
I mean,
which is
if you want
great.
to cheat, you can cheat.
Well, no, the cheating. I don't like the. So if you hit R3, I think it is, it automatically heals all your shit and gives you full limit breaks. I don't know about that.
So you're talking about just using the left stick to move around.
Just
you don't have to
speed
use
up the game.
You don't have to use circle plus.
No.
Speaking. No, I don't want to do that either.
If you hit L3, it just speeds the game up.
That I know too. I mean, these things
I
are there
love
in case you want to use them. I think the one cool addition is just using left analog stick to move is the same as D-pad plus circle, which is nice for fast movement.
Yeah.
Like real time fast movement. It's fun. I mean, it's very nostalgic. I was going back and I'm like, man, I remember when I got this. I like getting Final Fantasy VII was such an extremely seminal moment in my life. Because it got me, I got my PS1. I sold like almost my whole SNES collection to get it, which was a huge mistake. So there's like all these conflicting feelings about Final Fantasy. But going back and hearing the music and the characters, Cloud being so assertive as a protagonist, which is quite unusual in some Final Fantasy games, and then just a lot of RPGs
and
generally.
Cloud generally post Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, exactly. Barrett, being introduced to Barrett and Tifa and Avalanche, going on that bombing run for the first time, like the boss fights, the music, like it doesn't. We were talking about it. Will the game stand up even in pre-renders? The game looks like shit, like all of it. But the fact is that so even like the pre-rendered backgrounds, the CG, like it all looks bad. But it's so no. The answer is no. But it didn't hold up at all. Obviously, the polygonal characters were not going to hold up. But who cares? Like it's a product of its time, and I remember how blown away I was by that game when I saw it for the first time. I played it for the first time, and it just again it brings back a lot of memories for me about what it was to be a PlayStation owner. Like early on, I remember buying Final Fantasy VII and not even realizing you needed a memory card, and like why couldn't the game save on the CD? Like this was a huge I was like, why not? Like
the hell is this?
And I remember having to like go to Toys R Us and I bought like one of those bootleg cheap memory cards.
Yeah, my memory card had a basketball on the end of it.
Yeah, I had the blue EA Sports one.
Good Lord.
So it's just there's just a lot tied. That's a loaded game because there's a lot tied to it. I don't think I'm the only one. I think that people have said before, and they're right. Final Fantasy VII made PlayStation, and before Final Fantasy VII, PS1 was out in the States for almost 2 years, actually a little over 2 years, and it came out with Battle Arena Toshinden, and there was a bunch of games like that were fine. Wild Arms is one of the great games on PS1, and that was before Final Fantasy VII. But Final Fantasy VII made it a household name and got that system into people's homes and made the JRPG genre cross over into the mainstream. And even though Final Fantasy VII is in by no way, shape, or form a hardcore role-playing game, nor is it a difficult role-playing game, it is a role-playing game, and it introduced many people to what it was all about. And we should be so happy about that. I mean, it's so funny how I vacillated on Final Fantasy VII as a gaming fan and as a critic so much because I really felt like it was so vastly overrated, and I was so mad, especially with like how much attention it got compared to 9, which I think is a way better game. But the fact is it's important. It's just an important game, and it's a game that people should play. You know, it's a perfect Christmas game. Download it,
Bust it out.
Play it for a week, like enjoy it. I think it's an important game for people to understand. And then you look at Final Fantasy 15 and you see where they're coming from, and when you fuse them together, then you get that CyberConnect kind of remake. You get to see exactly where they're coming from.
So looking back at PlayStation as a whole, is there anything we want to talk about reviewing 2015?
Yeah,
because I got to say the press conference, E3.
Getting away from games because there's a few games I want to add.
Go for
it.
If
I can.
Everybody's gone to the Rapture. We didn't talk about.
Yeah, everybody's gone to the Rapture.
We waited forever for that.
It's one of those games who was I talking to? I think I was talking to Shannon Studstill, actually, the head of Sony Santa Monica. That game was gestated by the Chinese room, but Santa Monica was the production like XDev team on it. And it was one of those games where I was like, I played almost more than halfway through it. I'm like, this is awesome. What a fucking eerie ass game that is. And then I went away, and then I came back and tried to jump back in, and like, I have no idea what's going on, what I explored already, and I didn't want to start it again. I was like, damn, like that's a weird game. And there's what we've talked about, I think, on this show, or definitely on PS I Love You, and definitely on Colin and Greg. Like there's a sordid kind of story about that game in terms of how it was made. It doesn't seem like it was a good time making that game. It doesn't seem like the Chinese room and Sony necessarily got along with each other very well. So there's a lot of, and we're just reading into that based on a letter written by one of the co-founders about why she's leaving the studio or taking a sabbatical or whatever it is. So people can go read about that because it's really all conjecture. But there's so much tucked into that game when you know, like that it was probably a challenge for them to make it.
Sure.
I want to give a shout out to Helldivers, which we didn't talk about.
Oh yeah.
That was a huge surprise to a lot of people. I remember playing that game at Gamescom in 2013 maybe, and came back and I was like, this is fucking awesome.
I said, why, Colin? You go, because it's really hard. I was like, fuck that then.
Yeah,
and then it came out, I was like, oh, this is great. It's like
it's ridiculous.
It's like it's Destiny from a different point of view. This is rad. And then it ate my save twice, and I was like, "Fuck."
Yeah, the game Arrowhead. The game was a little broken. I think in the beginning, but that is the hallmark of the game. It's fucking hard, and it's not hard in a way of like I got to kill these 2 enemies and make this jump, or whatever. It's hard of like it's comical how hard it is, and I think that's what's kind of fun about it.
Yeah,
you call down reinforcements to help you that can crush you. You set up a turret
that'll shoot
you in the back if you walk in front of it. I'm like, this is awesome. You know, this is there's no friendly fire there. You know, it's like you throw a grenade and run into it, it's gonna fucking kill you. Throw a grenade in your friend, it's gonna kill your friend. I'm like, this is awesome. This is so it's so ruthless.
Arrowhead, right?
Yeah, Arrowhead.
Great job.
2 games I didn't spend a lot of time with, but I want to give a shout out for our PlayStation fans out there. Tales of Zestiria, I played for a few hours. And there's something wrong with it in my mind, and I just don't want to go back to it. And it's funny because I was reading a lot of NeoGAF threads, or just a specific NeoGAF thread about it, and so a lot of people agree. I'm like, this just doesn't
feel right.
Doesn't feel right. There's something off about it. And so I just it didn't grab me like Exilia grabbed me in Exilia 2, where I was like, I can't put this game down. There's just having played it for just a little while, I'm like, I don't quite like the combat. The world is fucking huge, but it feels empty. And so it was I want to give a shout out because I know a lot of people care about that game, but I didn't play nearly enough to have any sort of meaningful verdict on it. But I will say that my first blush reaction to the game is like, nah, I don't want to play it.
Mm-hmm.
Dragon Quest Heroes came out. I played that for maybe 10 or 15 hours. I really wanted to give a Musou a chance. I think we shit on these games a lot. I certainly have. And I know Greg has as well. These Omega Force, Tecmo Koei, hack and slash, mindless games. And I was like, if I'm going to get into one of these games, it's going to be with an IP I really care about. And there's few IP I care about more than I care about Dragon Quest. It's the same way people felt about when they did a Musou for Zelda.
Hyrule Warriors. Yeah.
And what I realized was like, yeah, this is fun. You know, like I was like, I get it a little bit more now. So I want to give a shout out to all my Musou fans out there, because it's not a game I'll necessarily ever go back to, but I get it a little bit more now, because it's just, you have to care. So if you're so for Dynasty Warriors, if you care about, you know, East Asian history, then maybe you do care about Dynasty Warriors the way I care about Dragon Quest. You know, I don't know. The final
game, give you American Revolution heroes.
That'd be cool.
Just running out there. There's Ben Franklin stabbing people in the head.
And the final game that I want to bring up that came out this year that I forgot about until I was looking at my trophies was a Super Stardust Delta came out, or Ultra rather, came out this year for PS4. More Stardust.
How can you go wrong?
Can't really go wrong with that, but really fun. It was one of the first games I played this year, and I really enjoyed that, so I wanted to give that a shout out as well. If you're into that, again, that twin stick kind of gameplay loop, not for everybody for sure, but and if you played Stardust once, you played it a million times.
Exactly.
But I'll play it a million times. That's it for me.
So do you have any games, Greg?
No, I think we've covered a lot of them.
Okay, cool. So outside of games then, like just overall PlayStation, just quickly.
They killed it.
You think they killed it?
They absolutely murdered. I mean, they're trending. They're doing so well with PlayStation 4 that they're benchmarking against PlayStation 2. That's an insane assertion to make publicly, and can blow up in their faces if it doesn't work out very well. But that shows a very bullish situation over at Sony with PlayStation.
I mean,
they're benchmarking against the best-selling console of all time.
We talk about this all the time too. I mean, the numbers right now at the end of the year, but going into the year, right, we were so concerned that there weren't exclusives. Remember, and you were all like, "There's got to be something in the fall we don't know about that they're going to surprise us with," and there wasn't. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter. You know what I mean? They've done such a good job of pairing themselves with Destiny, with Star Wars, with these things where it's like, this will move the unit and also make you think of us in that way. It's crazy to see these numbers keep coming in and them keep winning, you know, NPD numbers off this.
Yeah, they're doing a fantastic job. And yeah, we were wrong. I mean, or I was wrong. I want to speak for everyone else, but I really assumed they would suffer more from a lack of first party content than they did. And the crazy thing about PS4 is that there's a dichotomy drawn between the lack of really meaningful exclusives and the sales of the console. There's just not that many exclusives that you have to play on the console. There's not. I mean, I think Killzone's a fun game. A lot of people don't like it. Obviously, Knack is forgettable. I think Second Son was a little disappointing, although its DLC I think was really great. Bloodborne and Until Dawn I think are really meaningful exclusives that people should play. The Uncharted collection's fun, but when you really think back to PS3 and how poorly PS3 did out the gate, yet it had Motorstorm and it had Resistance and it had Heavenly Sword and it had, you know, a bunch of games, Folklore. Like there were games early on in the first 18 months that were pretty good, and it didn't matter. So it really goes to show, and I wonder what kind of information they're garnering at Sony about, like, do we even need to invest this heavily in exclusive games? Because we haven't so far. We've sold well over 30 million units now in 2 years, with a dearth of exclusives. And now the exclusives are going to start to come out. So we're going to see with Uncharted, especially, which is going to be one of the biggest exclusives on the console ever. And then we'll see, you know, later in the year with Horizon, which I think is going to be a big, strong new IP for them. If this helps become something additive on that Venn diagram of where the games fit, because they're murdering making third-party games exclusive to them, and they've made smart partnerships that make a lot of sense. When I saw Xbox get into bed with Bethesda with Fallout, I was like, that's a really shrewd move. Tomb Raider didn't work out so well for them. Call of Duty was obviously kind of stolen by Sony, but you know, so to speak. But the game still sold best on Xbox One according to MPD, not counting bundles. But Battlefront ended up being ingenious for them to get, you know, Destiny.
It's been a long play for them.
Yeah,
They've been from the beginning.
Yeah,
with
from
that, I mean, from the leaked Activision documents.
Yeah, and PS4, they were at the PS4 reveal, right? So it's like they were like they were there from the very beginning, and I don't know that I would have made the same bet in that same position and been like, that we're doing this MMO shooter from the guys that made Halo, where they're not with Halo anymore, and they're with Activision, but Activision, who knows how much attention they're going to give to them because they have Call of Duty and all this stuff, and are they afraid of kind of cannibalizing themselves? And that was probably the shrewdest fucking move I've ever that they've made so far this year, is to just be with them, to make Destiny a de facto exclusive, even though the sales aren't necessarily dramatically better. It's just looked at as a console that plays Destiny. So I think that they've certainly learned a lot of lessons, and I wonder if they're going to be able to keep the momentum going. I mean, they're definitely killing their competition, but the game's certainly not over yet.
Yeah,
and we'll see what this PlayStation VR does.
Yeah, and I think all the conferences this year, I think anytime there was any position for Sony to have a press conference and announce things, they killed it. I think they did great, and even if some of them weren't people are probably going to bitch about PlayStation Experience, but then even then, that's just a press conference that the other guys didn't have. So all that's just extra. But whenever it was everyone's doing their shit, Sony fucking killed it, man. They came out swinging. Shenmue, Final Fantasy 7, that Last Guardian, that press conference is unfuckwithable.
Yeah.
Yeah, E3 was great. PSX, not so much.
Moving on.